Howdy folks, Alex Wiseman back at it again, talking about the CIE 400 Comparative and International Education Syllabus. We are working our way through the assignments and we are now at the Annotated Bibliography. So let's talk about that a little bit. You will be doing an annotated bibliography. It should contain at least 20 relevant empirical works. We can talk about what empirical means in class if that's a new word to you. It's worth 20% of your grade, so it's actually important. That's basically 1 percentage point per annotation. And it's due October 30th, so you've got about half of the semester to work on this. What I want you to do is I want you to reflect on the readings related to theoretical and conceptual frameworks and address the following questions in a 3 to 4 page introduction or summary of the annotated bibliography. Then, using these questions as a foundation, I'd like for you to systematically organize and develop an annotated bibliography, the real deal, right? So let's talk about this. You've got two sections. You've got a 3 to 4 page introduction, which is really a draft of your theoretical or conceptual framework of CIE. And then the second half of this is the actual annotated bibliography. And an annotated bibliography, as you can see here, is a list of citations to scholarly books, journal articles, and documents, which are then described in a brief, systematic way. Right? It is critical that you cite peer-reviewed empirical research, historical, legal, or policy texts or government documents. Right? In other words, there's a threshold of rigor that is required for the types of things that you will be reviewing. Websites, in general, not acceptable for an annotated bibliography. Unless there is a peer-reviewed empirical document or government document or legal document that is coming off of that website, and then it's the document you're reviewing. And then each citation will be followed by a descriptive and evaluative paragraph of 150 to 300 words. That's the annotation itself. The structure of the annotation is as follows. And if you Google annotated bibliography, you can see what they look like. We'll be looking at some in class. They're very easy. It's basically a citation or a reference followed by a structured abstract is really what it ends up being. But you can't just copy the abstract from the original document. You have to put it into these categories. All right. So let's take a moment and go back and let's look at the beginning. So the first section, I'd like for you to talk about which topic or theme most intrigues you, right? This is going to be from your first assignment, numbers 5 and 6. Which topic or theme most intrigues you and why? Then I'd like for you to think about the readings that we've done in class or others that you've done outside in other classes or on your own related to theoretical and conceptual frameworks, and think which of the theories or arguments that you have been exposed to seem to provide the best frame or the best starting point for exploring your topic or theme. And you might even also talk about, and I think this would be really interesting, why do other theories or arguments seem less appropriate given the topic or theme that most intrigues you? I'll give you an example. I'm very interested in why and how national education systems use large-scale student assessment to make decisions about education. I know that was a little complicated, but that is what I'm interested in. It's a very large-scale idea. How do national education systems use data to make decisions? That's interesting to me. Now, what that means is there are lots of theories that are related to how individuals approach education or individual learners learn or all sorts of things that really are good and important and necessary, but they're not relevant to me. They're not relevant, at least to that question. They're relevant to me more broadly speaking, just not to that question. So I'd like for you to think about which of the theories or arguments are the best for framing your topic or your theme or your question, and why might others seem less appropriate. Even though they're valid, we're not saying they're invalid, we're just saying they're less appropriate for your topic, theme, or question. And then how would you explain your own theoretical or conceptual framework when you think about educational issues or phenomena? Right? Just briefly. It's only 3 to 4 pages. In the next section, you're going to be using those questions as a foundation. You're going to systematically organize and develop an annotated bibliography that will include a list of citations to all sorts of books, articles, documents that are hopefully peer-reviewed, empirical, or otherwise rigorous and valid documents. And for each citation or reference, it will be followed by a paragraph of 150 to 300 words that will give us the purpose, the theories that are used, if any, the design, methodology, or approach, the findings. It will give research limitations or implications. It will suggest what the practical implications of this research or document are. It will suggest what the social implications of this research or document are. And you will make some sort of a statement about the document's originality or value based on what you know, right? So you're looking very broadly at the literature. You need 20 references at least. You might only have 20 that you give me in the assignment, but you might have reviewed 50, and you only found 20 that really matched. So know that that is the scope of work that you're being asked to do. Listen, annotations are descriptive and critical. They are not simply a summary. So don't just read and paraphrase the abstract from an article. You have to substantively and critically evaluate the perspective that is presented in that document. With clarity and appropriateness, you want to weight the evidence. You want to look at the credibility of the source. You want to explain how it advances knowledge on the subject. Right? You are really taking this annotation and being descriptive as well as critical. All sources must be referenced using the American Psychological Association style. There are many different ways that you can learn what APA style is. One is to look at the way that things are referenced in most of the documents you'll be reading for a class. Another way would be to visit the library. There will be an APA style manual in the reference section. Another way would be to look online. There are several websites that will give a summary of APA style. There are also citation software programs like RefWorks or EndNote or Mendeley. There are a bunch of them that you can discover from the library, and hopefully we'll be able to think about how you could use those yourself so that you're not memorizing the style. You're just putting the information into the software program and it spits out the reference in APA style. Right, so that's the annotated bibliography. Please make sure that you understand this, that you're ready for it on October 30th, and that you get a head start. Some of your 20 relevant empirical works can, of course, be readings from the class, but make sure they are appropriate for what you're asking, what your topic, theme, or question is. Next is the presentation and research synthesis. Now, the presentations are going to be done on November 20th, 27th, and December 4th. Those are the last 3 days of class, the last 3 weeks of class. And the research synthesis will be due on December 11th. That's after class has ended. In the research synthesis, you are asked to do 3 things. 1, provide an introduction to the problem and its significance to both comparative and international education. So let me take a step back. You're taking that topic, theme, or issue that you identified in your What is CIE paper. You have then explored the literature relevant to that topic, theme, issue, or question in your annotated bibliography. And then you are going to actually synthesize the research into this final assignment and present that to the class. So you can see how they all build on one another. They're all threaded together. So you'll start your research synthesis by providing an introduction to the problem and its significance. You're going to then synthesize the literature in substantive areas that are relevant to your topic or theme. Please make sure that you include or account for a comparative examination of an educational case, situation, issue, policy, or topic that is relevant to your issue or problem. So for example, when I look at how national education systems use data to make decisions that affect educational practice, I am very interested in how a particular kind of large-scale data is used, and that's international student assessments, like the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, which we call TIMSS, and the Program for International Student Assessment, which we call PISA. I'm really interested in those, and I'm interested in how particular countries use those, especially countries that have something unique about them. Like, and you'll find this out as we go through the class, like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a very interesting context. It's got a completely gender-segregated system. It's got a rapidly developing educational system that really just started in the, quite frankly, it really just started in the 1970s and is being infused heavily with money right now. So I'm really interested in how Saudi Arabia versus other countries uses large-scale international assessments like TIMSS and PISA to help the educational policymakers make decisions about educational practice. Man, that sounds so complicated, but really it's very straightforward in my head. This is the kind of thing, though, that I'd like for you to be able to do. Synthesize that literature in ways that make sense to you, and use a comparative examination of a case like that makes sense to you. And then conclude by suggesting a substantive problem or puzzle which arises from your reading of existing research and which you hope to pursue as a topic for further research. So I'll just go back to my Saudi example. I'm interested in how these international assessment data can help Saudi policymakers think about how to approach gender differentiated schooling. That's a really interesting puzzle for me. I've given you here a format that I'd like for you to use as a template for your own paper structure with approximate page links for each section. You'll see that excluding the cover page and the references, your research synthesis should consist of approximately 15 single-spaced pages. And this is what I'd like for it to look like. You've got a cover page, you've got an intro section, you've got background and theory, you've got your questions, you've got your research synthesis, which actually synthesizes the research literature, and you've got your discussion that includes where this future research might go. All right? This is what I would like for you to then prepare your presentation on. I'd like for you to present this to the rest of the class on one of those last 3 weeks of class. Okay? So all of these assignments are coming together in this presentation and research synthesis. The presentations come before the actual submission of the final research synthesis, because I'd like for you to be able to use the presentations as a way to validate some of your ideas, to validate your introduction, your background and theory, your questions, your synthesis, and your movement forward with this. I'd like for you to think about how those are coming together and get feedback from your classmates. All right, so that's why we're taking the last 3 weeks of class to do that, so that you have an opportunity to work through this, get genuine feedback from me and the rest of the class, and hopefully bring that all together in a research synthesis that not only you're proud of, but that you can use as you move forward through the program for your thesis, for a publication, for a grant proposal, for whatever. Okay, we are going to pause here, and when we come back, we're going to start talking about the readings and the reading assignments and class topics.